Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tales from the Fandom, the podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. Today's episode is brought to you by In the Reads. In the Reads provides beautiful, affordable artwork of the vibrant worlds found within your favorite books, TV, and films. From all wood bookmarks featuring illustrations and quotes from such fandoms as Star Wars, The Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Outlanders, and more, to fantasy and real-life maps drawn in the style of Tolkien. Go to inthereads.com and check out what is available. Like something? Use code TALES10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. A link will be in the show notes along with the code. And now, let's get to the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. It is the month of September, and we are kicking things off with my first guest, I believe, from Argentina. I am so excited to have Lena. You might know her on Instagram as Lenlaegrim. Lena, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it is my pleasure. Thank you for staying up, because normally I'm the one staying up for my West Coast guests, and you're an hour ahead of me, and it just is oh my gosh, I cannot believe that you're an hour ahead of me for this evening, and it blows me away sometimes.
Yeah, oh man, that is definitely a huge problem sometimes. I have family that is also living on the West Coast, so trying to get calls in for birthdays can be a bit of a hassle sometimes. But yeah, it's my absolute pleasure.
It is something I always have to use Google sometimes. I'm like, what time is it in this state or this country? So that way I can figure it out. I'm like, okay, let me work backwards. If it's this time, okay, it's this time. Okay. Sometimes it's just tricky.
Yeah, and daylight savings literally makes no sense. I never know what's going on. We actually used to have it, but the problem is that what it lacks in width, it makes up for in height. So you can actually driving from the east coast in Argentina to the west to where the mountains are with Chile is a 2-day trip by car. But if you want to go from north to south, you can take ages. But they actually did do daylight savings. I remember it's this weird obscure memory from my childhood changing my watch because we went to vacation in Mendoza. But then they just stopped doing it because it was so inconvenient for everybody.
That's the one thing. I wish we would stop it because it is so ridiculous, and it just throws your body off for weeks and weeks of okay, it shouldn't be this time. It shouldn't be this time. But, this is not Tales from the Time Zone. This is definitely Tales from the Fandom. So we're going to kick things off with a broad fandom, and then we're going to drill down into specific books and authors. But you're into sci-fi and fantasy novels.
Yep. I spend so much of my time reading. It's definitely something I picked back up again recently. When I was in my second year in college, back in 2019, because I used to read so much as a kid, easily between 100, 150 books every year. But then I went to this very, very, not only strict, but also very demanding high school. It is actually dependent on the university. So it's kind of like if you were to go to college at age 13, and I had absolutely no time for any books outside of the school curriculum. And I really missed reading, but getting back into it now has been so much fun, especially diving into adult fiction and not just young adult or kids novels. It's really been a blast.
Now, what is the draw specifically for sci-fi and fantasy novels? What's the hook for you that just gets you into those specific kinds of genres?
Well, fantasy I have always loved since I was a little girl. My mom used to read to me every single night. She'd get home from work, and we would read just for hours. And so she read Wizard of Oz to me and 101 Dalmatians. We actually had this policy where if there is a book we're going to read it before we watch the movie, no matter like how obscure or weird it is. And so we were always reading, and well, she was always putting me on to books because she's a teacher. She teaches English as a second language because here we all speak Spanish. So she's basically an ESL teacher, and she would always like give me books that like her workmates that were teaching for grade school would recommend to their kids. And I kind of got caught up in the fantasy genre because it's just so like all encompassing. You know, you can have so many different things inside fantasy, and also kind of like with sci-fi. I think the allure is that there are such broad genres that you can have, like, you know, sci-fi, western, and fantasy, like gritty, dark heist thing. You can just combine the genres in so many ways that it's more like a setting, or like a little set of rules, you know, your little sandbox that you can play in. And that was definitely like one of the main things that drew me to these genres as a whole. And well, especially with sci-fi, I'm actually reading The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula Le Guin, and in the author's notes, I'm not sure if it's in the introduction or the author's notes, that they talk about this idea of sci-fi being like the goalposts towards utopia, and sci-fi authors just generally building upon this idea that there is the possibility for a better future and a better tomorrow, and exploring what that means, reflecting on what is important and what is happening to us right now. You know, sci-fi isn't something that is predictive, which is why you get things that are like retrofuturist, like Blade Runner, where it's like very, very 80s, but it still has this idea of sci-fi that is being, projecting what is happening right now into the future. And that also has always really interested me. And reading these author's notes at the beginning of the book was actually kind of like the moment where I was like, okay, this, like, it has been put into words what I feel about sci-fi as a genre. This idea of like still having hope in a utopian future, kind of. But yeah.
So besides Ursula Le Guin, who are some of the authors, or what are some of the books that you are loving now, or that you're like, you know what, I read it, it's great, and you need to read it?
Yeah, so I'm kind of memely referred to as kind of like a preacher of the word of Sanderson. I'm really, really into Brandon Sanderson's writing and all of his books. I've read basically everything that is within the like Cosmere universe. I haven't branched out into some of his other work. And also, Tamsyn Muir and her Locked Tomb series, as well as Lee Bardugo with Six of Crows is what I read. I haven't read Shadow and Bone because I was a bit too late on the age front. It's a little too YA for me, but my teenage sister absolutely loves them. So she basically live tweeted her whole reading experience to me.
I was gifted those books last year, but they're still in the shrink wrap because I have been very bad at reading, and I have not read. I think maybe I read one book last year, and I need to do better at the reading. I used to read lots, and now I don't read much anymore.
It's really difficult because I don't know. There's something, because it happens to almost everyone. There is something that just has to do maybe with the way that we're taught to read that makes the habit kind of non-sustainable if you can't kind of get into it again and find your own way to read as an adult. Because what happened to me is that I would get really discouraged. I'm kind of like one of those people where I'll have 3 hours, but if I feel I need 8 hours, I'm like, oh my God, I don't have any time. I'm not going to do this. So it's really easy for me to just kind of like put off reading and be like, oh, well, I should go to bed in an hour and a half. That's not enough time to read 300 pages in one sitting. So I just won't read. And I was also like so bad at leaving off just in the middle of a chapter. I had to finish a chapter or else I would like not put the book down. but I've kind of been trying to get into, like, even if it's 1 or 2 pages, 10, 15, 20 minutes before going to bed, kind of also to, like, cut off a bit on screen time right before I'm trying to go to sleep. Um, Trying to at least read a little bit. And so it really is helpful if you have books where you can feel like you can dive right in no matter where you left off. So, like, finding something that you can get very invested in and trying to be like, okay, even if I can just read 1 page today, that's enough. And not putting like that pressure on myself that I need to read like 100, 200 pages a day or else I'm failing. That has been like very, very good. And I've been able to get back on a way more consistent reading schedule than it was before, where I basically was not reading at all. So that's been really good also.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely the thing where it's like, if I start reading, I have to at least finish a chapter, because if I
Mhm.
don't finish the chapter, then I just got to start the chapter over. I mean, that's how my brain works. It's like, oh, you didn't finish, so now start back over at the beginning of that chapter.
I have done that, but also because sometimes I feel like even if it's something that I read earlier that day, I just forgot it. Like my brain processes everything in units, so it's just like, oh no, you did not finish this whole chapter. I'm just gonna delete all this information from your brain. So I used to get really kind of like self-conscious about that, but now I'm like, no, okay, I'll like flip back through and check a character's name because I'm so bad with names, which is such a curse when you read fantasy. Like, it's not fantasy, but when I was reading Good Omens for the first 200 pages, my brain could not process Aziraphale's name. It was just like, no, no, you're not remembering this. Goodbye. And I would literally have to like say it in my head letter by letter every time, where I would just be like, and just gloss over it. But now, yeah, I'm also being kinder to myself with flipping back through pages and trying to find things that I maybe forgot, which is also really fun when you're reading really big fantasy series like Brandon Sanderson's work, where sometimes it's like, oh, we're going to mention one name that was mentioned once in this other book that you read 3 years ago, and it's like, oh man.
Those are the books where you're like, those are the ones where you're constantly like going back and forth, and it's like, okay, I remember that name. Let me find out why I remember that name. Oh, time to read the whole book again just to make sure I know what's going on in this new book.
I definitely feel like I'm on the precipice of starting my first Cosmere reread because I haven't had the chance yet. Because just recently in January, I finished the last book that I had to, Elantris. Because before that, I was just trying to get up to date because I was like, oh, Miss Bourne already has 6 novels, and there's a 7th one coming out this year, and Stormlight has, well, at the time when I started, it was 3 that were out, and then a novella came out, and the 4th book. So I was playing catch up, but now I'm finally like ahead of the curve. So I'm very, very scared I'll fall into a reread cycle where I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna read this forever and not move on to any new books, which is why I've been trying to be better about trying to read more authors, and especially more like being conscientious in trying to have a more diverse um, to be read list. Um, because it's really, really easy to just get sucked in by one author, especially when they have so many books. But they're still really great books. And if anyone listening is into fantasy and they have not gotten into the Cosmere, I will try to leave a read list on my Instagram profile because it can be very daunting, but it's very worth it. The books are really fun.
I was recommended the Mistborn series. So I believe I have the Final Empire either probably on my Kindle at some point, which my Kindle hasn't been powered up in a couple of years, but I'm pretty sure it's there. And I might have even started reading it at one point, and then I didn't get much further. But I keep hearing like Brandon Sanderson is one of those authors, and Tamsyn Muir with the Locked Tomb series is
Yeah.
another where like and I think I heard I heard about that book series based on I kept seeing cosplays of characters. I'm like, those are some interesting characters. What are they cosplaying from? And then I found out, oh, it's a book series, and apparently it's a really good one.
Yeah, that's actually how I got into Locked Tomb, because I started seeing some people cosplaying from the books, and it was like, huh, these people who I followed because I have like 10 plus common interests with what we not only like but also cosplay, like even cosplaying the same characters, they're like super into these books. So I went to check them out, and I read Gideon the Ninth and Harrow in like the span of a few months, but it was just like, oh my god. Like I really had not read anything like it, especially with Harrow. I really don't want to give any spoilers, but purely from a writing standpoint, it's some of the weirdest and most wonderful writing. It is one of those books where you're like, you finish it, or no, you don't even finish it. You get to the point where you suddenly realize what's been going on since the first page because you do not understand. It is page 230. You have no idea what's going on. Suddenly you understand and you're like, oh, I'm going to need to reread this now, aren't I? But it is so good and it is so unique and it's really fun. A little bit heartbreaking, but really fun.
Yeah, that is one of the books that I keep seeing, recommended by people. I'm like, and it's almost word for word or paraphrase description of of how you described it as like, nothing, you don't understand what's going on, and then as you said, like there's like it just like clicks for everyone. It's like, oh, and it's like, okay, like and that makes me want to read the book. Like I'm kind of daunted by like, okay, I'd like to know what I'm getting into, but then to know that there's like a payoff in that, like that, or like around the like you said, around like page 200 ish, and it's like, oh, I'll learn if I read and stick with it. And it's like, okay, I need to do that. I need to read stuff.
Yeah, especially because like something that I really, really like about both Tamsyn and Brandon's work is that they do not shy away from the audience, well, the readers, not the audience, guessing what is going on. Because if you don't understand, maybe because you didn't pay attention to that one detail or like the little trail of breadcrumbs, you can reread the book and find it. But if you're paying attention, especially like when you get deeper into Sanderson's work, since you've spent so much time with how he writes characters and plots and you kind of understand what's going on, you start to get a feel and you start to actually be able to more accurately predict what's going on, or at least what the important thing was for the plot. And it is so refreshing because the plot twists aren't plot twists because you couldn't see them coming. It's because they are just so masterfully constructed by taking little bits of information that are sprinkled throughout the book that then pay off in a way that is absolutely amazing. And so even if you already guessed what was going to happen, it is just so incredible when you get to that point. People, for Sanderson's work, I think they call it like the Sanderson twist, and it's just like so amazing, which is no surprise that one of the like core tenets to all of like the kind of religion, kind of philosophy in Stormlight is journey before destination, because you will have such a fun time getting there that it makes that plot twist, that moment of payoff, so much better. And being able to go back and kind of like piece together everything, even when you already know what's going to happen, is still also so much fun.
So just for everyone listening, highly recommended the Sanderson novels, the Cosmere and the Tamsyn Muir's Locked Tomb series. Highly recommended from you, correct?
Yes, really high recommendation for Sanderson's work, especially if you want to get into the Cosmere. I do recommend that if you're not used to reading fantasy stuff, especially like adult fantasy series, or if you just want to kind of get a feel for the author and how his mind works, you should definitely start with the first Mistborn series and with the Final Empire. That is like my personal recommendation is that is the best place to kind of hop onto the train.
Okay, awesome. I'll make sure to have those in the show notes. That way, if you're interested in checking those books out, you can just click on the link and it'll take you there to where you should get started. So that way you can read them and then you can talk to Lena about the books too.
Yes, join me on my adventure to cosplay every single character that appears in a Brandon Sanderson book. It's worth it, I promise.
Not only are you into sci-fi and fantasy novels, and I don't think this is I've had people talk about the two fandoms as like separate entities, but we're going to smush them together on this one.
Oh yeah.
We're going to talk about Star Trek and Star Wars at the same time. Get ready,
Yes.
people. Listen closely as we're talking about Trek versus Wars, but no Trek Wars. So Lena, what came first? Was it Star Trek, Star Wars? Where did you get your start in the science fiction? I guess like two long-standing juggernauts of sci-fi.
Yeah, so actually, since I live in Argentina and my parents are from here as well, they don't really have a very good track with broadcasting shows here. At least they didn't, especially like when Trek was coming out, kind of in the 60s and 70s. I actually have an uncle who, in the 70s and 80s, worked in like getting TV to different places, like different provinces here in Argentina. But so we didn't actually get a lot of those shows. I remember that my mom, she lived in the States for a while, and her first ever movie that she watched in cinemas was actually the first Star Trek film, Star Trek the Motion Picture. But she did not remember that until we watched it recently. And she was like, wait, V'ger? What is going on? Oh, I watched this as a child. I had no idea what was going on. And suddenly, like, her life flashed before her eyes. But no, so we didn't actually get into Star Trek until really recently, but I was probably younger than 5 years old and I had already watched all of the Star Wars movies.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are really huge Star Wars fans. My mom went to see all of them with my aunt and my other aunt, who's her cousin, and they would be like, having their own little fandom talks. They would stay up all night and talk about the movies and be like, "Oh my god, do you have a crush on Han Solo or on Luke?" And they would tell me this when I was a kid, and I was like, "Oh my god, no! Like, why was Leia not in the conversation? What are you talking about?" I was so mad at my mom because she didn't want to be or marry Princess Leia. I was like such the most haughty little 5-year-old. Like, no, your taste is trash. I was dissing my mom for not having a favorite Star Wars waifu when I was 5. But yeah, my parents really really loved Star Wars, so they showed all of the movies to us. We watched them in the release order because my parents are like really um, religious about that. They're like, no, you have to watch them in the order they came out. And I was lucky that it was young enough where I had not already been like flooded with the cultural zeitgeist. And I actually did not know that Vader was Luke's father. I did not have that like moment of kids on the playground being like, oh, Luke, I am your father. I had no idea. So I was so shocked when everything was going down. And then I watched the prequels like, oh my God, how is this young boy going to become Darth Vader? And so, yeah, so I was really into that. Then I kind of fell off because I was really restricted on which cable channels I was allowed to watch or not as a child. So I caught Clone Wars kind of on and off, like
Mm-hmm.
most people's first viewing experience, because it was when it was coming out. So you would kind of turn on Cartoon Network. Sometimes it was like, oh look, there's a Star War, and you'd watch a bit, and then you didn't really know, like, I don't know, maybe it's just like me when I was a kid, but I didn't really understand when shows were on and I could just come back every week and still watch it. So it was like, oh, I found a show and I just watched it like in that moment. So I just kind of like left channels on in the background while I did other things, like the multitasking toddler that I was, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually didn't fully watch Clone Wars in order until a few years ago. Um, Basically because I was bullied into it by my now partner. Um, yeah, he was just like, "What do you mean you hadn't watched all of it in order?" Because he had never watched in order either, and then he did, and he was like, "You need to." So yeah, that definitely came first. Though by recently, I actually mean, I think it was in 2021, probably, like really early 2021, we watched Star Wars Rebels, and it is so good. I love that show so much. It's so much fun. If anyone is watching and they have been put off by the animation style or thinking it's for kids or whatever, don't. It will break you emotionally. I have watched the ending over 5 times and I still cry every single time. It is such an amazing show, especially now with the Ahsoka series coming out. Like, Rebels is definitely a must watch. It is like top tier.
It is on my list because I did watch Rebels for the first couple episodes and then I just stopped. And I have no excuse. I have no reasoning behind why I stopped. Is probably I moved on to something else that like held my attention a little bit more. But Rebels is definitely high up there because I just keep hearing so many wonderful things from it and about it. It's like, okay, I need to watch it. And Clone Wars, I had the same, not the same like viewing, like I'd watch bits and pieces and I wasn't like really down with the animation style at first, but I got into Clone Wars and it was like once you got to a certain part in like that first season and it started clicking and like the storytelling was getting like really good and you started like getting connected to Obi-Wan and Ahsoka and Anakin and like the clone troopers and stuff and you start really like getting into it and it's like you can't quit Clone Wars. You got to keep going. You got to keep going and see Hondo and all these characters that they brought in. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so good. And yeah, I absolutely feel like people continue to sleep on Clone Wars. I think they definitely sleep on Rebels. And once like the Ahsoka show comes on, they're gonna be like, okay, we need to go back and watch Rebels to get the connections to what they're going to be bringing out because I know they've got Rebel characters showing up in it. So,
Yep, they will be. Also, like it is. I think it's really important to point out as well. It's actually the reason I personally prefer Rebels to Clone Wars, which is Clone Wars is like the epitome of Star Wars space opera. It is huge and sprawling, and it has a million different characters and all of the political plots and everything. But Rebels is going to be way more of a like concentrated small cast. It's literally just watching these characters become a family, and the plot is completely character driven. It's not so much like in Clone Wars, sometimes it's like, oh, there's this war happening, so we need to go here and there, and the characters are kind of getting tugged around by circumstance, whereas in Rebels, it is much more focused on the characters, and the plot just follows their journeys. So it's like it's definitely a different pace, but it's a very different show. So it's kind of like the Avatar Korra thing where you can't expect Last Airbender out of Korra. You have to like accept the show for what it is and have fun with it because it's gonna be a bit different, but it's good. It's a good different. It's good when things are different.
Now, out of curiosity, in the Star Wars universe, before we jump over to Star Trek, in the Star Wars universe, do you have like a favorite movie, favorite TV show? Like what's your favorite of the Star Wars media?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna double down and say Rebels, just because personally, in the way that I've always understood everything from concepts like what the Force is, what it means to be a Jedi, what it means to be one of these guardians in this galaxy, not affiliated with the Marvel one. Everything that the show talks about and how it talks about family and everything just resonates so deeply with me that I really feel like it's one of the best things that has come out of Star Wars. But that is like 100% my own personal taste. And I understand that a lot of people will maybe be like, oh no, Empire is the best, which it is great. It's really good. Don't get me wrong. But I just personally feel like I have such a strong emotional connection with Rebels and with the characters in Rebels, especially because like Hera, who is the pilot and mom of the group, is basically my favorite Star Wars character ever. She's like kind of tied for first place with Ahsoka. and like maybe Mara Jade and Thrawn, but like Thrawn is in the timeout corner for war crimes. But Hera is such an amazing character. Also, watch Rebels if you want Thrawn.
I'm laughing over here because my like when I first got into like Star Wars novels, my first trilogy was like the Thrawn trilogy way back in like the late 80s, early 90s. And it's like, yeah, I grew up with Thrawn. Like that was my jam back then.
Yeah, no, I actually read I haven't read the other two, but I read Heir to the Empire
Yes.
earlier this year, and it was definitely like Dave Filoni did his homework for Rebels. Like I was it was one of the first times I was reading something after having seen it because I was raised on that very like puritanical book before movie mindset.
Hmm.
So when I was reading it, I really could only hear Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn. It was like Thrawn is so perfect in the show as regards to like how he appeared in that first Thrawn trilogy. So for Thrawn fans who have not watched Rebels yet, highly recommend. Highly recommend.
Okay. Okay. Now on the flip side, and you said earlier that you didn't really get much Star Trek back, like when you were growing up and stuff, because of how things are on TV. So how did you get into Star Trek, and what Trek do you like?
So I am not through with my Trek journey yet because once again, me and my family are going full chronological release order on this one. Um, I was I was originally introduced to Star Trek because of the J.J. Abrams movies when they came out. It was
Okay.
like at the height of Tumblr, and of course, I was on Tumblr. I was a teenage girl, and I felt like no one had the same weird interests as me, so of course I was on Tumblr, and just the fan art was everywhere. So true to Star Trek fandom tradition, Kirk slash Spock made me get into Star Trek because it was like, who are these men? What is going on? Why is that one emotionally? Why does that one have emotional damage? I need to know. So I watched like the J.J. Abrams movies, and it was just like, oh look, like this is fun. Like it's not my favorite type of storytelling because I don't vibe with mystery box that much, and even though it's a bit more self-contained, the Star Trek movies still like the Kelvin timeline still has a lot of J.J. Abrams' own personal style in it. So I didn't quite vibe, but it was always something where I was like, I know Doctor Who because again, Tumblr 2013 to 2015, the Super Who locks, they were there, and I watched all of them. And so I knew Doctor Who, and I knew there was also this rivalry for like the oldest fandom, Who versus Trek. Because I don't know, apparently everyone needs to have beef with Star Trek. Like, are we okay? But I saw that it was this like long-standing thing where it was like one of the oldest sci-fi shows, but there was also like this other oldest sci-fi show. Um, so I was always like in the back of my head, like, okay, yeah, I should probably watch Star Trek because I'm probably gonna like it. And then the pandemic happened, and we were all locked in our houses, especially because in Argentina we started like pretty early, like
Hmm.
late February, early May in 2020. We were already on full lockdown because they were like, I mean, Europe is not doing good, so we should probably not do what they did and just lock everything up right now. And it was like, I don't know, like at least 10 or 12 months of like actual pretty intense lockdown over
Hmm.
here. So me and my family watched through like everything imaginable. We've always had like we do family movie night where when we're all available because we have really hectic schedules. Also, there are six of us. Um, we like each person takes turns picking a movie or show to watch, and so we had one family show to watch before a couple chapters or a movie picked out by the person whose turn it was that day to pick something out. And we watched through The Mandalorian and Avatar and Dragon Prince and like so many of these other shows, and we were also watching movies every single night, sometimes more than one movie because we really didn't have anything to do.
Right.
And we didn't have a family show to watch, and I was like, hey, why don't we watch Star Trek? Because it's like the at least the original series is like pretty family friendly, and my little brother, who is now going to be 13, was like 10 at the time. So it was like, okay, yeah, we need something that we can all watch together. So we started on the original series, and before season 1 was done, it was already like, we have had these characters for but a few weeks, but if anything happens to them, we'll kill everyone in this room and then ourselves. And it was also like so much fun because my dad just turning into the biggest Leonard Nimoy simp on earth was so much fun. He's like just so enamored with Leonard Nimoy. It is so endearing. And once we were finished with that, it was actually pretty wild because one of my brothers was never totally as into Star Wars as the rest of us were. He's really into it now because we also turned watching Rebels and all of Clone Wars into a family activity during the pandemic. So now it's more like the family connection and he's more into it. But with Star Trek, it was just like it hit immediately for him. And so he started choosing the Star Trek movies to watch. And he did like all the research, like, okay, we're on this season of Next Generation, so we can already watch this movie. And okay, so then we're gonna watch Deep Space Nine, but we can't watch this other movie until we get to this season. So now we're just starting on Deep Space Nine. We're still in the first like 10-ish episodes of season 1. Because since things are getting kind of back to normal and work exists and also school, we can't do our movie nights that often. But yeah, we're still going strong. I don't know what is my favorite Trek though. I'm
You
not
have lots
sure.
of Trek. You have lots of Trek to go before you can even say
Yes,
what your favorite
and
Trek
I'm so excited because I follow a lot of Star Trek fandom people and Star Trek creators, and they'll be like doing video essays for stuff for like Strange New Worlds or Discovery, and I'm like, no, I have a watch later list on YouTube that is just Star Trek content and like video essays. And I'm just like, oh no, I need to catch up, but I also don't want to like skip ahead and watch stuff before my family because it's like, no, we've made the sacred oath. We are
Right.
bonded by the Trek.
Well, out of curiosity, because you finished original series and you finished Next Generation at this point. Do you have any favorite characters from original series or Next Gen that you kind of like latched onto, and those are your characters?
Yeah, for the original series, I really, really latched onto Uhura and Spock because just seeing Uhura, even though she wasn't given the most to do, which is just like so sad because it was a lot of like behind the scenes production things that um, like I've read from like Nichelle's memoir and stuff. It makes me so sad, but just like seeing her there, it's just like that, like knowing that she was the first Black woman to have like a recurring, more center stage role on TV. So that just immediately makes me be like, I'm gonna protect this. Like I'm gonna be part of the Uhura Defense Squad for life. And for Spock, it's just like that connection with characters who, especially because of the fandom, have such a strong coding and like fandom acceptance and headcanon for them being neurodiverse and on the asexual spectrum. So it was just like, oh yes, that one's mine. This one is for me. He is my little space goblin man. And so it was really fun. And well, along those lines is also why I just adore Data so much. It's like, oh man, yeah, no, it hits way too close to home with some of the things that happen. And as much as it kind of sucks sometimes that it has to be behind the metaphor of this is an android who literally does not have human emotions, seeing like that character explain and having other people understand, hey, this is how I process the world that is maybe different from how you process it, and just having that be out there is just so cool, and it makes me feel very safe in this knowledge that, it's okay, we can figure things out. And well, also like Deanna Troi is just such a cool character. I also wish had been used more on the series. But yeah, with Deanna and Hera from Star Wars Rebels, it's just like the pattern of me latching onto the characters who are basically the mom friend, because like that is me. I will scold you for going out clubbing and not bringing a jacket.
That's awesome. And I just have to say, out of as a fellow Star Trek person, um, Deep Space Nine is my favorite. So please, as you're watching it, feel free to like message me and be like, I just watched this and I love this character or whatever, because that is my show. Like Deep Space Nine is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's really good. We haven't watched that much, but I'm already really enjoying it. I love Dax to bits. She's
Yes.
like so cool, and just like well, again, it's just like me being like, oh, there is the faintest whiff of queer coding on this character. Like I just run at it like a feral raccoon. But also, it's just like she's just cool. She's so badass. It's like she's so great, and me and my sister are like just so enamored by Dr. Bashir. He does not have a single brain cell. He's like, but it's a kind of funny, dumb, where it's like he only has smarts for academic research and settings. He's so bad at interacting with other people. And it is just hilarious because he's really trying and he really thinks he's like the best thing since sliced bread. But he's just such a huge dork. It's so much fun.
It is. I'm excited for your Star Trek journey. So I'll be watching what you post and being able to keep up with what you do. Now, so we got Star Wars and Star Trek, and now we're going to smash some more stuff together, which is you are into a lot of animated TV shows, not Star Wars Rebels. You know, there's more that's out there that you're into.
Yes, that is true.
What are some of the ones that you would like to talk about that you are into of these animated shows?
Well, if I had to be like a top 4 shows that I could really talk about for a really long time, it's probably Avatar: The Last Airbender. Kind of coupled with Korra a little bit. Then like She-Ra, The Owl House, and Maya and the Three is like the latest one that I watched, and it is so good. All of those 4 shows are very, very fun. Highly recommend.
Let's work backwards because I've never heard of Maya and the Three. So where do I find that and what is it?
Oh man. Okay, so you may remember about 2012ish, there was a movie that came out. One of the producers on it was Guillermo del Toro, and it's directed by Jorge Gutierrez. It's The Book of Life.
Okay, yeah.
It's that movie that there was like some hot goss going on with the fact that maybe Coco had to be pushed the release date because it was originally gonna be like maybe closer to when The Book of Life was happening and all of the drama with Disney trying to copyright other cultures' holidays for profit. Bad Disney. But yeah, so that director, Jorge Gutierrez, is also the director of El Tigre, that show about the little kid wrestler was like on Cartoon Network, where there was like that little kid that dressed up as a flea, and it was all about like luchadores and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a director that is he's Mexican and he's from an indigenous background, and he's very, very connected with his culture and everything that he does, which is super amazing. And so this show that he did, Maya and the Three, it's a Netflix series. It's really short. It's about like eight episodes, and I think they're like 40 minutes. I may be wrong. So it's this show about a girl called Maya, who is the princess of Teca, which is this kind of imaginary amalgamation of different Mesoamerican cultures and First Nations here. And so there's this prophecy where Maya and these 3 great warriors from the other 3 nations, who are the Skull Warriors, Rooster Island Wizards, and the Mountain Barbarians, they all have to come together to defeat these evil gods of like because there's this concept in Mesoamerican culture where they kind of have like dark pantheons. So they have like a normal pantheon, which would be like kind of analogous to your Greek god pantheon, and then they have dark pantheons, which is just gods who are doing stuff that are kind of evil, but they're also kind of necessary for the world to work. But it's like the bad vibes. So there's this whole conflict with those gods, and so these three warriors have to team up with Maya, and the whole show is about their journey in coming together as a team and growing and facing these different adversities and trying to go kill gods, which is always super fun, but it is completely steeped in not only figures and mythology from Mesoamerican and First Nation indigenous peoples, but also with like more modern things. So you have like Spanish puns, or like that weird saying that your mom would say to you when you got a boo boo, used as like a magic spell, which is really fun because it's about frog butts. It's frog butts, and it's like the most weird thing, but it is like so intrinsically Latina, which is so much fun. So it is definitely one of those shows that is so special in that the creative team just really went wild with it, and Netflix let them go wild and just kind of go like whole hog on it, and it is such a fun show. Again, in the vein of other shows for children that maybe should not be for children, it is kind of emotionally harrowing, and you're maybe gonna cry, but it is also so good, and it talks about so many important topics, and it's one of those things where it blows your mind because it's like, this is a kids show and I'm a fully grown adult and I'm crying multiple times per episode.
I pulled it up on Wikipedia because I when you were talking, I wanted to make sure I was like making sure I knew what I was reading. The cast list is amazing.
Oh yeah, it is
Wonderful
packed.
cast. And then I was reading, further because I was like, well, there's only one season. Like maybe there should be more. And apparently there's like a sequel or a follow-up miniseries that they were going to do, but because of what Netflix did earlier this year, they canceled it. But the Jorge Gutierrez said that it's just not moving forward at Netflix Animation. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this follow-up gets to be released somewhere, because it sounds amazing, and it's still apparently at like the Rotten Tomatoes, it said it's still like 100% fresh, wonderful show, feast for the eyes. Like it's going on my watch list after I finish tonight with you. I'm gonna put on my list of shows to watch.
Oh yeah, definitely. The concept for the follow-up series is also absolutely wild, because it was like kung fu but also space, but it's still going to be like very much Mexican. And yeah, the art style is so incredible. You can actually see some characters from the Book of Life make little cameos in Maya and the Three, and the art style is pretty consistent with all of Gutierrez's projects. So it's really, really fun because it's very unique. The characters aren't necessarily limited to normal human shapes sometimes, and that also leads to some really fun moments with like physical comedy and stuff, which is really cool.
It is really cool. And I want to say thank you, because this is one of the reasons I love doing the podcast, is finding out about things that I've never heard about. And I'm like, now I'm super excited to dive in. And I'm glad that you were able to share this with people that are listening, and hopefully they can, get into it too. So thank you.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. Yeah, it's always fun to talk about these things, because you're definitely going to find something that's like really interesting and that maybe not enough people, at least in the opinion of someone who's the person who's talking, not a lot of people maybe know about it. So yeah, I'm glad I could put you onto this, and I hope that at least some people who are listening will maybe give it a try and find this really cool, amazing, fantastic show that I love so much.
Go give it a try, people. I'm gonna give it a try. You give it a try, and then we can let Lena know that we watched it. Just tag her and be like, I watched it and I liked it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So besides Maya and the Three, I know you mentioned the Owl House, which my family, because again, like your family, how you have like shows that you watch and then have like a family movie night. We have the same thing where we generally have like a show that we're watching during the week, and then we have our family movie night on a Friday, where like we rotate whoever's watching, like picking the movie. But the Owl House was one that we were into up until Disney Plus didn't have the particular episodes to finish season 2. So we're halfway through season 2 with the episode where they're in the Emperor's mind, and that was where we had left off.
Oh,
So
what an
I
episode!
I know that we're like downhill from there. There's a lot, like I saw the Twitter comments and Instagram people being upset and sad and emotionally damaged from whatever happens next. But how did you get into the Owl House?
Once again, social media came to my rescue on this incredible show because I hadn't heard that much about it because um, we stopped paying for cable because we had so many streaming sites and no one was really like actually watching the TV like by themselves a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it really didn't make sense, and so we don't have Disney Plus. So I really didn't know about it until I saw Twitter started going absolutely bananas because of Luce and Amity. So when we were on vacation, I think it was like maybe like for like winter break, so like about like August last year, which is winter for us. Um I was on vacation with my partner and he was like, "Hey, have you heard good things about the Owl House?" And I was like, "Yeah, we heard good things about the Owl House." So we gave it a try and we watched basically everything that was out until that moment. So all of season 1, it was like a 2 or 3 day vacation and we just watched all of it. And then we would try to get together to watch the episodes as they were coming out for the start of season 2 as well as for season 2 part 2. Oh wait, no. Oh, my brain just did a goof. No, we watched it's worse. We watched all of season 1 and then all of season 2 part 1 in that very short vacation. We watched all of it. And then we watched season 2 part 2 as it was coming out. So, yeah, that was, oh my god. I can't believe I just I think what happened is probably I just processed all of season 1 and the first half of season 2 as one thing because we just like zoomed by it. So it was actually oh god, it was actually worse. Don't do that, folks. Like don't binge watch series. Your brain needs time to process what you just watched, and also that much just sitting around on a couch is probably not good for you. But yeah, it was one of those things where it was Twitter and also Instagram again, like amazing cosplayers who were pulling out all these different looks and stuff, and it was like, oh, it looks really cool. And then I actually found out that Alex Hirsch from Gravity Falls was also involved with the project, and I was like, oh my god, oh, I need to watch it now because like I don't know if like anyone who was like really into Gravity Falls as it was coming out because the experience as it was coming out and when everything was happening and we didn't know what was going to happen and people were trying to like decode the journals in the intro and outro and stuff and the different symbols and what they meant. It was such a wild time to be on the internet. And so it was like, oh, I need to recapture the magic that Gravity Falls made me feel in my heart, and it really did. It really did, and it's such an amazing show, and also really stands on its own. It doesn't have anything to do with Gravity Falls, but it just stands on its own as this really cool thing. So I'm really happy that people freaked out about it so much that I just had to watch it.
Now I have to ask because I've gathered, like, generally speaking, like which characters you go to based on the show, like the you have particular characters that you like. Who do you like in the Owl House? I want to see if I'm right in my head.
Yeah. Okay. So, because I am boring and predictable, of course, one of my favorite characters is Luce. Because when I was first watching the show, and it was like, oh look, there is this little awkward gangly Latina, and she really loves fantasy books, and she has trouble making friends, and she wants to go live on the magical witch island. It was like, oh my god, it's me. Dana Terra has found my embarrassing 7th grade diaries and now it's a show. So I was just immediately like, yeah, this is for me. Luz is for me. She's for my inner child that watched the Emperor's New Groove show on repeat religiously because I just wanted to feel something and feel represented. So she's for me. And then of course I adore Ida
Yep,
because I mean
that was my pick. I was like, that's the mom. She's
yeah.
got the mom vibes.
Yeah, I think though Ida is a little bit more of like the wine ant, well, the apple blood ant in her case. And I've also really loved Lilith's arc. She's just a really cool character. It's really one of those shows where it's like it's such a shame that well, I mean, we're basically getting like an L House movie instead of season 3, which is it's better than not getting season 3, but I would really have loved for the characters to be able to be fleshed out more and the world explored more. I feel like they really had to contain it a lot because of how limited a runtime they had, especially when they already knew that they wouldn't be able to get a season 3, like a proper season 3. So it makes me kind of sad that some characters were maybe like underutilized or couldn't have as much time to shine, especially because it has such a great supporting cast. Like Gus and Willow are so cute and they're so cool. And well, now Hunter has gotten like a more like a bit more of like a not necessarily protagonist because he got more of like that really Hunter-centric episodes because he was the antagonist and he was so tied to Luz's story, which is also what happened to Amity as I don't know if this is still a spoiler, but as like the main love interest. But yeah, it's just such a shame because it's such a cool, fun, and funny show. Like my parents like also really like it. I'm making all my family watch it now. That's my movie night. And we're finishing up season 2. And my parents also really like it. Like my dad loves Ida. It's really fun. The characters like my dad likes like what we've learned about my dad. He likes Spock and Ida.
Those are two very different characters.
Yeah, the vibes could not be more different. But it would be the funniest thing to get both of them in a room.
Oh, absolutely. That would definitely be something. And of course, I would be remiss to not mention because on this podcast there's one fandom that has kind of like taken over everything, and I will never not talk about the show, and it's like the Avatar: The Last Airbender, and subsequently Korra as well. I don't want to dismiss Korra. Who do you love in that show? Why do you love that show? Tell me all about your love for this franchise.
Yeah, so Avatar, like Clone Wars, I kind of did the watching it sporadically, and then I started watching it a bunch of times from the beginning with completely different people. Like I visited my family in the U.S. for a while, so I was watching it like with my cousins when we were there for my uncle's wedding, and then I started watching it with my siblings. And so when they put it on Netflix here in Argentina, we watched it through completely. And then I watched it through again with my partner and then with my whole entire family, not just the siblings I'd watched it with before. And I watched Core with my sister. So it definitely has a lot of that like familial connection to it. And also, it's just such a great show. It's like a masterclass in writing, how to like, because some shows maybe haven't gotten the full hang, especially now that we have streaming, of doing monster of the week, but then also kind of shifting towards more overarching season plot oriented stuff. And it's such a cool show and it's so much fun, but it is also so deep and so moving. And like honestly, will we ever get another redemption arc like Zuko's?
Right.
Will we? I don't know, because we're getting the Zuko movie. We're getting a Zuko movie. That was announced recently.
Yep.
Which is so fun.
Yeah, I always point to like whenever I talk about Avatar, it's always like the show is made for kids, but they don't talk down to kids. They're like right at the level, this is what happened. This is the bad stuff that happened. People died because of like the Fire Nation. Yes, like Aang is the last airbender. Like the people that he knew and loved are dead because of what happened and his, consequences and actions and everything else. And it's like Zuko's redemption arc, the storytelling, how they go from like little tidbits here and there into like this full-fledged like everything that happens in the third season. Like it is
Yeah.
so well done.
Yeah, especially I'm I recently found out there's a fan project to work with voice actors and animators to bring the comics of what should have been book 4 Air to life,
Hmm.
because I have not read all of those, but that also goes into like such amazing stories about like Zuko actually having to work for people to believe that the Fire Nation is going to stop doing the war crimes now,
Right.
and like what happens with that, and also like for everyone who was like, oh wait, but what happened to Zuko's mom? Well, they're going to tell you what happened to Zuko's mom. It's a ride. It's a lot. It is a
It
lot.
is.
It
Yeah.
really is. um but yeah, I know there's this fan project to kind of bring it to life, which is going to be so cool because the comics have so much really cool content. I really need to like finish reading all of them, but they managed to convey these really complex topics and do so in a way where children can understand, but they're not dumbing it down, and they don't make excuses for bad behavior or
Hmm.
anything, which is kind of like a pet peeve in some shows where they're like, oh, okay, well, we're just gonna forgive you because that's the right thing to do, even though you did a really bad thing. And it's like, no, don't teach children this.
Right.
That's not the lesson we need to be learning here. And Avatar just handles so many themes. They're really complex in a very responsible way, I would say, um, which I found really cool. And it also makes it really fun to watch even when you're an adult. I'm very much a fan of rewatching things when you're in different stages of your life, because you get such a new perspective on everything depending on like who you are in that moment and how you have grown as a person, which is really cool. And also because it just kind of like hits on parts of the people you used to be, if I can steal a little bit from Doctor Who there, which is really fun. So yeah, if this is also um, your periodic reminder that if you haven't watched a show you really love in a while, it's okay. You don't have to consume new media all the time. Just watch that show again, even if you know how it ends. Especially
Exactly.
if it's a comfort show or it was a comfort show.
Exactly. Like, especially during the pandemic, it was like, well, I could watch like all of these new things, or I could just rewatch these shows that I've watched 100 times already because
Yes,
I know how they are and I know that they'll be comfortable to me.
yes. 'Cause the world is really scary sometimes, and watching things that you already know the ending to is good. It's good for the old mental health to have a little bit of stability.
Indeed. Now, Lena, the way that we connected was on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure you found me somehow because that's how things are. Is that either I find people or they find me? Um, but you do cosplay. Uh,
Yes.
how did you first get into cosplay? Like, what was the drive to be like, I'm going to dress up as characters that I love?
Like with everything, kind of the theme of this episode a little bit is me falling into things and not realizing that it's the ocean. I fell into the ocean. I started innocently. I was a wee child. I was blind to the reality of the world, and now I'm way into deep, and I'm making this my career path. What up? So what happened was that when I was a little kid, I was always like into art. I was constantly drawing. I would go over to my grandma's house every Tuesday and Thursday, and I would paint with watercolors. And then my other grandma, who would come take care of me on Fridays, she was an artist. She did oil painting and sculpture and knitting. And so I did a lot of arts and craft with her as well. I was always getting those books where it's like 101 crafts to do with old paper cups and that kind of
Yes.
stuff. I had like all of those books, like little scholastic ones, and I just love doing artsy stuff. And my grandma, the one who came over on Fridays, who knew how to knit and everything, she also knew a lot of sewing, just for like necessity's sake and having to get by sometimes, uh, getting clothes that people in the apartment building needed fixing and stuff. And so she was not the best at clothes making, but she could certainly hold her own. And so she would make me little stuff, like she would make me dresses, and I would get like, I think I had like a miniature version of backpack from Dora the Explorer. Like I just had a little my own little purple backpack with a little rolled up fabric map and stuff. And so I was always interested in that. And since I watched a lot of craft videos, I was such a huge fan of Art Attack. That was such a cool show, and I would always do the crafts. And when I got YouTube, when I was 13 and I was old enough to sign up, because I fully didn't even think about like sneaking behind my parents' back and signing up for YouTube before I was 13, because it was like, no, it says you should be 13 to use YouTube, so I won't use YouTube without my parents' permission until I'm 13. And when I finally got my own YouTube account, I started watching like different crafts, makeup guru people, those people who were like, use old mason jars to make a pyramid you can put all your jewelry in or whatever. And that mixed with art, mixed with like liking props and always being interested and really fascinated by the movie business and how TV shows and movies and everything is made, led me to like cosplay tutorials, like those really, really old cosplay tutorials. It was just like someone with like a webcam and paper mache in a dream. And that got me onto like bigger cosplayers who were already in the scene at that time, like Yaya Han and Kamui and Alice and Tabitha and those people. And I saw that like they would go to conventions and stuff. And then at one point I was like, wait, do we have conventions? And so I Googled and it was like, oh my God, there's an Argentina Comic-Con. I could go. And I had all of these plans and I was like making my costumes and everything. And of course, everything like fell through at the last minute because I was a child. So I just kind of dressed up as my own OC for the for Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance's Danger Days, True Lives of Fabulous Killjoys comic books. Everyone had like Killjoy OCs on Tumblr. So me and my friend dressed up as our Killjoy OCs and we went to Argentina Comic Con, and it was not at the venue that it is at now. It was like past the suburbs around like the city of Buenos Aires, which is kind of like our Washington DC.
Right.
Or like it's kind of like Paris, and then like the suburbs outside of Paris would be a better like one-to-one relation on that. And it was like past the suburbs, and there wasn't any AC, but there was Finn Jones from Game of Thrones was there, and we got tickets to the meet and greet because it was like, oh my God, we're gonna meet someone who's famous. Like he's on a TV show. And we just dressed up as our OCs because I fully thought it was a requirement to be in cosplay to go to a convention. I was like, no, we need to be in our costumes. And it was kind of that time where like there was that everyone had at least like an art headband on. So that was kind of reinforced when we were at the convention. I was like, oh yeah, see, everyone is like at least kind of in cosplay, because I knew it was expensive because I had no money and I was very small. So you can imagine the kind of stress I was under. And I was just like in my really crappy OC outfit that I'd made with clothes from my closet. And I was like, see, everyone's at least like doing a bit of a cosplay from their closet. You know, they have the headbands from the thing. I didn't know what Naruto was.
Right.
Because I don't know. I only watch a very like limited amount of anime, and I had no idea what Naruto was. So it was just like everyone is doing cosplays, and I thought everyone was like so cool because I didn't understand what was going on. And I kind of like fell into it that way. And then I started like seeing that there was even cooler and cooler things that you could do with cosplay. And like I got onto foam smithing, and that was a thing. And it was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So like slowly from like age 12, 13 to now, it's so next year it's going to be 10 years since the first time I went to a con.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I don't say that I don't say that I've been a cosplayer for 10 years, because I consider that I actually like started kind of at the ending of 2017, because that's when I really started like going to conventions regularly and trying to post stuff to social media and make cosplays with more like detailed construction and not just like thrifted clothing and hot glue, which was how I started out and how I cosplayed for many years. Well, 5, but that's still like a lot. That's a lot of dedication for a high schooler who did not have a job. And so I kind of fell into it, and that's also how I fell into my love for costuming, and how now I'm just like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna like get into costuming like as a career. So I also started to get more into like actually taking classes and learning how to sew and different pattern making techniques and everything. And it just kind of kept snowballing, and it is completely out of control now. And I just have no more say in what happens in my life. I'm just going with it. I'll see where this takes me.
That's awesome. Now, scrolling through your account, you have a number of different characters, a number of different, like, you have the props and you've got the costumes and you've got like these great pictures. How do you choose the characters that you tend to cosplay? Is it more that you connect with the characters, or are you like, hey, that's a badass looking outfit or prop, I'm going to do that? Like, where do you land yourself in the who do you choose to cosplay world?
I think that's definitely something that has evolved along the years. I started out kind of cosplaying whatever I wanted. I like at one point I like was cosplaying like basically doing kind of not gender bends, but more like redesigning different characters to feel more comfy for me to cosplay. Because I tend to gravitate to a lot of male characters as well. So it was like, okay, I'm gonna just tweak this design a little bit so I'm comfy cosplaying it, like doing my version of it instead of like an actual cosplay. I would like use my own hair and didn't really wear any makeup because I didn't know how to do it. And then when I started getting into cosplay, like actually into cosplay, I was pretty quickly sucked up into that mentality that I have where I'm just like, okay, I think these are the unspoken social rules of this. I'm just gonna stick with it. So it was a point where I was watching like every single anime that came out that season, and I was like trying to cosplay from everything. Like the week after the character dropped, there was a whiff of a design. I remember I started working on my Gamora cosplay when we hadn't really like seen the full outfit for Guardians 2 yet, I think. I don't know. But then I had to scrap that costume, and a lot of things happened with my Gamora cosplay. It was like, oh my god, so it was so messy because I did not know how to use a sewing machine, and there was stretch pleather, and bad things happened, and we don't talk about it because I had a mental breakdown the night before the con because I was doing that like really unhealthy con crunch thing, and I was like, I need 3 new cosplays for every single 3-day convention I go to and everything. And now also like getting more into book stuff, I've really gravitated towards I'm going to cosplay characters that I am really connected to emotionally and that make me happy, and also that I can see myself cosplaying many times, basically until I've completely worn out the costume. Because it has happened where like I was so hyped when the Wild Wild Pussycats first appeared on the My Hero anime because I knew them from the manga. And so we cosplayed them with some friends, and then like I kind of fell out of My Hero, and because it was very much a spur of the moment decision, and it's just like that cosplay's been sitting in storage since like late 2018, and it's so sad because I put so much materials and time into that, and now I'm not really doing anything with it. So I've tried to go more into like planning out and thinking out my cosplays, even though it won't always align with what is currently popular and trendy. I have done some cosplays where it was like when Skate the Infinity came out, I was like, oh my god, Cherry Blossom, that's my boy. And so I just slowly worked on that cosplay for like 5 months with a lot of hand sewing. But it was good because it was also like the pandemic times. So it was like, okay, I need to pace myself because if not, I'm going to go wild. I'm going to black out and this cosplay is going to be done, but I'm not going to have slept in a really long time, which is bad. So I still occasionally give myself room to be like, okay, I really like this character and this just came out. But I'm also kind of like constantly reshuffling my cosplay list and moving things depending on whether I want to do that cosplay or not. Maybe there was some cosplays that I had on there for like 3 years and I'm like, I never got around to this and there's a reason why. So I'm just gonna like scrap that, move it from to a different column on my little like Excel spreadsheet for like the cosplay graveyard. And if I ever want to do it again, I will put it back on the cosplay list. But yeah, I guess it's kind of comparable to those people who will like sit on a tattoo design for like 5 years before they get it. I'm kind of at that place right now, except with some characters that I'm like, no, okay, this is a really important character, and I want to do it now because it's gonna make me really, really happy. But then it's usually those cosplays that I end up spending a lot of time, energy, and money into. So it will actually be like maybe a 6 month process for some of these because I'm also trying to pace myself. Again, if anyone's going to take anything away from this episode, it is don't con crunch. Just don't do it. It's so bad for you. Like, I'm not even 23 yet, and sometimes I fall asleep at 10 p.m. because my body is just so like. I once finished 6 cosplays the same week that of the con, where I also had uh I also had 3 deadlines for university and also an exam. It was like a final, and then I was sick for 2 weeks
Oh my god.
because so yeah, like don't do it. Don't do it. I'm gonna be the 80-year-old in their 20s who's just like sleep, get dehydrated, do exercise, please. Like don't do the con crunch. It's really bad, and just everyone should just pace themselves, please.
You got to listen to Lena. Pace yourself. You got to pace. Don't bring sewing machines or stuff to the hotels. Don't be trying to hot glue at the last moment. Just you can let it go sometimes and be better and make sure to drink stuff. Hydrate. Keep yourself hydrated.
Yeah, it's also because I don't know. At least I'm like I sometimes attach really strong emotions to things, so it's like some cosplays I probably have not worn again because I finished them at like getting up at 6 a.m. the day of the con to finish sewing. Um, I don't really do like cons in other provinces yet, so it's mostly just like a 20-minute drive to the venue. But still, like getting up the day of the con, and you're just so stressed, and it's probably not going to turn out how you want it to turn out because when you're stressed is when everything starts to go wrong. So it's just, I don't know, for me it's not worth it. Sometimes it is, even if it's just because you really need to check your hubris and you're just like, I got this, and then you do it and you really don't, and then you have to redo a whole half of your cosplay because you kind of screwed up on that. So sometimes you need to like, you know pull yourself back in when you're flying too close to the sun. But otherwise, like, really trying not to fall into that mentality of like content. I need to put stuff out there, and more focusing on like, why are you crafting this? Why do you love this character? And giving it the time, as much time as you want to or feel that you need. And it's a learning curve. It's a process. I'm still not absolutely perfect at it, and I probably never will. But at least like having that in mind now has been way better for my mental and physical health these past few years. But mainly because of the pandemic, it really made me reevaluate everything when I was just like stuck in my home, and I was like, okay, but do I even want to craft now if I don't have any cons to go to? And so I just like reevaluated my whole relationship with cosplay and the characters that I was cosplaying and why, and it was actually really great.
Well, that's very, because I know a lot of people had, like, especially that first year of 2020, there's a lot of reevaluating, like, well, I don't have cons to go to. And, they were able to maybe take their time and relax and not be like, okay, I need to, get this done in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or however long. They could, just chill a little bit. It's nice to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, with the number of characters that you've done in the past number of years, I've been privy to see a few on your Instagram. Do you have favorites, or you're like, and I hate to, again, make you choose, but do you have favorite cosplays that you've done that you're like, dang, this is really good, and everyone that is listening to this needs to go check it out?
Yeah, definitely. I think because I don't know, it's easier to choose when it's my own work because I like to be trying not to be too overcritical, but I do like to be critical and like really evaluate like what can I do to get better at this and what can I like change up and how can I evolve as a creator. So there's like different characters that hold like special places in my heart. So for example, a prop that's very important to me is I cosplayed artist Gabriel Piccolo's version of Anna from Overwatch, and I made her sniper rifle. And I tried out so many new techniques that really got my foam work ability to a different place than it had been previously. So, like, that is still really special to me. And then I got the opportunity to get on a special Christmas commission list for Gladziki. She's a really amazing artist and cosplayer. You probably know her because her Moana is absolutely incredible. She's
Mm-hmm.
so amazing. And she's also a concept artist and character designer. And she did a cyberpunk sombra look for me, also from Overwatch. And that was really special because it was one of the first projects I really, really worked on with my partner, who now is really into prop making and does his like own stuff as well. And kind of that is the cosplay that because he helped me on it, he got into cosplaying, and it was also probably kind of a bit of what got him onto studying electrical engineering, which he's doing now. So it kind of set him on his career path at least a little bit because we were like doing things with LEDs. It was my first time working with LEDs and doing a full armor build, and we worked on that for 2 months to go meet Anjali Bhimani, who is Symmetra's voice actress in Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
And I also competed in a Blizzard-sponsored cosplay competition, and it was really fun because it was my first armor set, first time working with LEDs, first cosplay competition, and so many things went wrong, and we were so stressed, and we barely slept because we were like painting a bodysuit while it was on my body at 3 a.m. the night before the con. Again, doing things I do not recommend anybody do. Don't listen to this advice. It's not advice. Um, but it was just so much fun, and it's when we like really started working together cosplay wise, and then it's more like a category. But in 2020, I really started doing cos tests. So just like, okay, what do I have in my house? Practicing makeup looks and that kind of stuff. So I did cos tests for Rebecca from Monster High and like Hero from Locktomb and a bunch of different characters. It was just like, okay, I need to take some pressure off myself with you need to make a full cosplay and you need to regularly post updates on what you're working on and everything, again with this reevaluating of how I cosplay and why in 2020. And I started doing these like more chill looks with stuff in my from my closet or trying to make like generic pieces that are going to be good for a bunch of different looks or just having like general fantasy wear if I ever find a friend fair I'm able to go to. And or maybe even just like working on small props because I really want to have this in my house, and so I make it and I use it for a photo shoot and then I like put it on my shelf or what have you. So starting to get into cost tests and taking that pressure off myself that I can create something and still make content out of it, but with less pressure to have this really high quality uh, end product was really, really fun. And like at this point in time, my masterpiece, my most beloved cosplay is I did an original design for Yasna Collin from the Stormlight Archive, Brandon Sanderson's like biggest fantasy series within the Cosmere. And that is one of these cosplays that I worked on for over 6 months. I was able to fund it because people were really nice and bought me coffees. And so it was kind of like this whole community thing behind it as well. And I'm currently editing a video tutorial work log situation I did while I was um, making the cosplay. But it was like one of those moments where I had said to myself when I started reading Stormlight, and I was like, oh my god, this woman, do I want to be her or do I want to marry her? I said to myself, you're going to wait until you're at a certain point with your cosmaking abilities to actually get on this. And when I felt that time had come, it was just like such a huge moment because it was like, okay, I am confident in myself enough to like go and buy this. I think the translation would be silk taffeta. Trying to translate fabric names from Spanish to English is like the actual worst, but I think it's like I used silk taffeta, I'm pretty sure, and some polyester shantung, and like over 25 meters of gold trim, and it was just so much fabric, and it was like the most expensive thing I had ever done, and also the most time consuming. I was constantly working on it. Even when I was like doing virtual classes like from my house, I just had like my sewing in my lap, and I would like write things down and then get back to hand sewing because it has a lot of hand sewing involved. But it was like kind of that project where it's like this is the culmination of every single thing I have been doing since I actually said I want to start actually cosplaying in late 2017 up until now. And so it was just like this really wonderful moment for me that when I actually got it and I made it, I still am not totally done because of some problems I'm having. Because, of course, I had to be extra and design my own crown to 3D print. Because when if you're going all the way, you're gonna go all the way. So I have to finish it, and I'm waiting for a friend who is gonna make their own cosplay as well, and we're gonna do a Stormlight photo shoot together. But yeah, because I would say Yasna is like my magnum opus at this point. I'm leaving the entries in my book of favorites open because I have a lot of really fun things planned, and I'm sure I'm gonna come up with even more as I grow as a cosplayer and costumer. But yeah, it was just such a special moment when I was finally like, I'm making this. This is gonna happen. So yeah, Yasna is definitely like my babiest of babies.
I want you to know, like, listening to your story just brought like this big smile to my face. Just how much care you put into it, how you were like, I'm not going to even work on it until I'm ready because it needs to like this deserves skills that maybe I don't have yet, but eventually I will have them. Like, just hearing your story to bring that cosplay to life, just it brought such a big smile to my face.
I'm really glad because I haven't really told this yet because since I'm not done with the cosplay, I haven't done kind of like my retrospective, but it's something that was really like weighing heavy on my mind as I was making it. So yeah, I'm really glad because it's so special. So I'm glad that I am able to convey that to other people as well.
I hope people understand. Like, I hope people listen to this podcast episode and they take what you have said to heart, not only about the con crunch, but like getting attached to a costume or a design and being like, you know what, I might not be there right now, but I will get there so that way I can achieve that. Like, that is just something that, you know, maybe people would have like rushed in and then they would have been unhappy with it. But just to hear like how you were patient and like you waited until you were ready, like it's just an incredible story. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Yeah, I hope that uh, at least some of this is like, I don't know, at least entertaining, but at best a little helpful for someone out there. And yeah, now it's your turn to go live your dreams. So
That's right. Go live your dreams. Now, Lena, for people that have listened to this episode and they're like, okay, I'm tired of listening to this episode. I need to see stuff. I need to read what Lena's talking about. I need to see what she is putting out there. What are some of the best places for people to go check you out on the social media?
Okay, so my main platform, I guess, is Instagram. That's where I post a lot of my works in progress. I have story highlights for every single cosplay that I make, except when I just pull something secret out of nowhere to surprise people, because you got to keep things interesting. And where I post basically everything from all of my looks. And I also do TikTok if you are wanting more of a short format meme style content. It is a lot of Cosmere stuff. So if you're not into Cosmere stuff, I apologize. / this is your excuse, because you're going to see spoiler warnings on every one of my videos. And you're going to be like, man, should I watch it or should I wait until after I've read these books? And then I'm also kind of on Twitter sometimes. I ramble a little bit. Sometimes I go on rants about costuming and stuff on there. Not as much as I should. I should go on more Twitter rants is what I'm thinking right now. But yeah, you can just find me everywhere at Lenlaegrim, Lenlaegrim. And if you go basically anywhere, you will also be linked to my Linktree, which has all of my other platforms. So if you just want to look me up on one place and then have a handy link clicker to find me everywhere else, yeah, I just use the same username everywhere for easy access.
Wonderful. Well, I'll have the links into the show notes so that way you can click and go to Lena's pages and make sure you give her a follow, and make sure, with the algorithm, as I always talk about on this podcast, to make sure you're liking and commenting and sharing the stories and clicking the save button to save stuff. So that way it helps people find Lena, like I happen to stumble across Lena. So Lena, I want to say thank you for taking the time today to talk with me and share your stories and share your passion and your love for the things that you're into, and of course cosplay. So thank you.
No, thank you so much for having me. It was a really fun time, and thanks for letting me come on here and ramble on about my nerdy little interests. It was super fun.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.